We will look at questions from your homework from the G7, so you still have that to turn in. We are going to take a quiz today on substitution. And now we're going to start this new method called elimination. It's the last way of solving systems that we are looking at. So it says we've already developed some useful strategies to solve simple equations like 3x plus 5 equals 10. You know you have to add or subtract the same quantity to both sides. The same is true for multiplication and division. These ideas are called the properties of equality. And they can help you to develop another method of solving linear equations. The method is called the combining separate linear equations into one with only one variable. We often refer to this as the elimination method. And I think some of you are going to just think this is, why didn't we do this sooner? But x minus y equals 4 and x plus y equals 5. Now remember, this is 1x minus 1y, 1x plus 1y. And it says we're just going to add the two equations together. So if we do that, 1x plus 1x gives us 2x. Negative y plus positive y gives us 0y. And 4 plus 5 gives us 9. So if we are solving this, we can now say that we have 2x plus 0y is 0 equals 9. So we are just simply adding vertically our two problems. Once we add those, we simplify is our next step. And how did we simplify? Because 0y actually equals 0. Well, what would we do now to solve our problem? Well, in order to get x by itself, we would divide both sides by 2. And 9 divided by 2 gives us 4.5. So remember, we're still getting our answer as an ordered pair. We have just found x is 4.5. We now need to find y. How do we find y? Remember, we substitute into one of our original. So I'm going to use, I think the second equation is easier, although either one would work. What do we write down? We write x plus, if we are looking at this now, what was our x value? Our x was 4.5. Plus y has to equal 5. So we're substituting in, so please write this in your notes, substitute 4.5, because that's what x was equal to. We now are subtracting 4.5 from both sides. That is our subtraction property of equality. And when we do that, we're left with y equals 0.5. So our final answer was 4.5, 0.5. 4.5, 0.5. Doesn't work in the other equation. If we check 5 minus, or excuse me, x, which is 4.5 minus 0.5, does that equal question mark 4? And it checks. Now, this next one is a little trickier, and it says now we're going to subtract. So again, if you needed to pause the video or go back to get that one down, what subtraction means, and you got to be really super careful here, is that this whole first equation stays the same, but when we subtract, everything here has to be the second equation. When we subtract, everything has to change to the opposite. And when we talk about opposite, we're talking about the opposite sign. So when we subtract 2, this was a positive 5x. We're going to think of this as plus, and we're going to put negative 5x. Negative 3y, and this changes to the opposite, positive 8. And then we are going to simply add the two equations. We can always add once we think of changing the sign. So 5 plus negative. 2 plus negative 5x gives us a negative 3x. The y's, oh how beautiful, 0y. 4 plus 8 gives us 12. We get negative 3x equals 12, unless we're already thinking, oh yeah, I know I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. And x is equal to negative 4. So again, I kind of like putting my answer right at the top. They also have the answer down here. We now know x is negative 4. Doesn't matter which equation we go to get y. I'm going to write the first equation. So that first equation was 2x plus 3y equals 4. That means 2 times a negative 4 plus 3y equals 4. And negative 8 plus 3y equals 4. If we are continuing to solve this, we're going to add 8. And we get 3y equals 12. And dividing by 3, we get 4. So y is 4, our x was negative 4. Does this make sense for our problem? So we're going to check it in that second equation. So remember to check, I think is a really good thing, especially as you get ready for your quiz today. You're going to do substitution today on the quiz. But in this case, go back to the original, which was 5x plus 3y equals negative 8. 5 times negative 4, that's negative 20, plus 3 times 4, that's a positive 12, is negative 20 plus 12 equal to negative 8, and that checks. You're going to see these next two problems, and as we look at these next two, what we want to think of doing is adding in the first case, and in this second case is where we're going to subtract. So in this first one, if your variables and numbers are all lined up, this is called standard form of the equation, you can just start adding them together. Keeping in mind our solution is always going to be this ordered pair. 1x, negative x plus x, that's 0. So we might not even write down 0x. For those of you that like writing it, put it down. 6y, 7 plus 5 is 12. Divide by 6. And I know I might be going a little fast, so if you need to pause the video, you can. Y is equal to 2. Much quicker than our other method. Go back to your equation. X plus 2y equals 5. I chose the second one. X plus 2 times 2 equals 5, which means I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And x equals 1. Does it check? That check, remember, is just kind of doing making sure. Negative x plus 4y equals 7. So negative 1 plus 4 times 2, that's going to be 8. Negative 1 plus 8 equals 7. When I talked about doing subtracting in the second one, we're going to subtract everything, or actually multiply everything here by negative 1, which makes it a negative 5x, a plus 3y, and a negative 7. We're going to add, and we get negative 3x plus 0y equals, as we are adding these together, a negative 3. Remember that negative is with the 7, so it's negative 3. We divide both sides by negative 3, because this is gone, and x is equal to positive 1. Going back to that first equation, 2x minus 3y equals 4. 2 times 1 minus 3y equals 4. We're going to subtract 2. Negative 3y equals 2. And we are going to divide both sides by negative 3. And y is equal to a negative 2/3. And someone said, well, how can you be sure you check that? Remember, if you check it, you kind of got to go back to that original equation. And in the original, it was 5x minus 3y equals 7. So 5 times 1 minus 3 times negative 2/3. Remember, these 3's cancel. So we got 5 plus 2, and that does equal 7. Now, when they talk about equivalent systems, these two are exactly the same system. I just want you to notice from system A to system B. The first one, everything stayed the same, but the second one, it looks like we took everything times 2. Are they still the same? Yes. And the reason they did that is because now look how nice it is for our y's to cancel. Here we could not add these together because they wouldn't have canceled. Remember, it is called elimination. We want to get rid of something. So here, if I'm looking, I can now add these. So sometimes we rewrite equivalent systems before we can eliminate. Which system above can elimination be done? System B. And the reason is that the coefficient of y is the same and the sign is opposite. And that is going to be key in order to eliminate. We are probably only going to get one of these done in our notes. So I want you to take a look. And tonight as we start working with the elimination, you're going to be working on worksheet G8. And really, the main ones that I want you to have done for tomorrow as you are looking at this is you should be able to have down 1 through, probably looking at these, all of them you don't really have to multiply, is 1 to 8. Now the key thing I want you to notice about 9 and 10 is they're not written the right way. So in number 9, we want to rewrite that second equation. X plus 2y equals 15 is nice, but this one we want to put the 3 all by itself. So I'm going to give you the new equation. It's negative 2y. You should be able to do this one and try number 10. So your homework tonight is 1 to 10. We will look at these last 2 methods of doing that multiplication when we do tomorrow's assignment, working with the systems and multiplication. So hope the homework goes well. I'm going to be putting the quiz up that you're going to be taking, or actually you'll be getting the quiz handed out to you. The sub will hand it out to you. Make sure that you use substitution when you take the quiz. So there are 12 questions on that worksheet. I need you to have 1 through 10 completed. 1 through 10, if you get the other 2, that is awesome. Your quiz is substitution. Remember, that's where we use the parentheses. Still need to get an XY answer. Good luck.